According to a draft joint statement by EU leaders, the bloc is set to tell Britain it must improve the terms of its withdrawal offer and make sufficient progress on three of the main sticking points of divorce talks, namely the Irish border, the exit bill, and ensuring citizens' rights. Earlier today, Michel Barnier, the EU's chief Brexit negotiator, said the Brexit talks deadlock was down to a failure to agree on the financial terms of Britain's exit. Asked about Britain's future financial commitments to the bloc, Mr. Barnier responded regarding that question, "We are at an impasse, which is very worrying for thousands of projects everywhere in Europe and also worrying for those who contribute. I am still convinced that, with political will, decisive progress is within reach in the coming 2 months. With David Davis, we will organize several negotiating meetings between now and the end of the year. EU leaders are set to discuss Brexit next week but without Theresa May there however, as the remaining 27 EU leaders prepare to meet next week to discuss Brexit without Theresa May present. It appears as though they are preparing to make a substantial gesture towards London in a bid to get the stalled talks moving. The draft, which was submitted to the 27 EU governments on Thursday, said the bloc should launch immediate internal work on possible transitional arrangements after Brexit so that it can move to talks on future ties with Britain as soon as possible after sufficient progress is made on issues of the Irish border, citizens' rights and the exit bill. The draft document reads at its next session in December, the European Council will reassess the state of progress in the negotiations with a view to determining whether sufficient progress has been achieved. If so, the Council will adopt additional guidelines in relation to the framework for the future relationship and on possible transitional arrangements which are in the interest of the Union and live up to the conditions and core principles of the guidelines of the 29th of April 2017. Getty. Despite their friendly interactions, Davis-Barnier continue to disagree on major Brexit issues. The draft concludes that in order to be ready for such a scenario, the bloc calls on Mr. Barnier to start internal preparatory discussions. The slow pace of Brexit talks has become a major concern for both sides, and news that the deadlock appears to have been broken will be welcomed by both Britain and the EU. Earlier today, Boris Johnson told his counterparts in Brussels that it's time to put a tiger in the tank and move towards the next phase of Brexit talks. Speaking in London following a meeting with Polish ministers, the Foreign Secretary said, "We're looking for some urgency from our friends and partners. Time to put a bit of a tiger in the tank and get this thing done." Boris Johnson has called on the EU to show some urgency. Wednesday, September 13, 2017, he said he felt the UK government has made helpful suggestions to get the great ship moving and called on the EU to speed up the progress of talks, which have stalled in recent weeks as both sides fail to agree on some of the fundamental issues related to Britain's EU exit. Mr. Johnson also warned that Britain must prepare for the possibility that no Brexit deal will be reached with the EU. He said, "The Prime Minister has made it very, very clear that we are going to get a deal. We are working for a great deal, but obviously we must make the right preparations as and when it is necessary for a no-deal scenario. Of course that's the responsible thing to do and that's what we are going to do."